Hello everyone, and welcome to the February edition of the MSBA Board Report. We are coming to you from the Jefferson City offices of the Missouri School Boards Association, and we thank you for joining us and giving us a few minutes of time at your board meeting. Joining us on this program is the Governor of the state of Missouri, Jay Nixon. And Governor, thank you very much for being with us today.
Great to be here.
Governor, in your proposed budget, you are recommending an $18 million increase in the foundation formula for the next fiscal year, but that is considerably less than the amount that's actually called for in the phase-in of the new formula. How did you arrive at that number?
Well, when we started the budget process, I said everything was on the table for cuts except for K-12 education. And we had to pull almost $800 million out because the revenue is down so dramatically in the state of Missouri. But when we got to the end of that process, we knew we wanted to lean forward. We had $18 million left. That's the amount that was left when we went through the process. We had to cut a lot. I mean, when you talk about taking $800 million out of a budget, you're talking about significant cuts at corrections. You're talking about, tens and tens of millions of dollars of cuts at mental health, at social services, all of those sorts of things. But we said this year we were, higher education took $50 million less than they got last year. But the one thing we said was not on the table for cuts was K-12 education.
Governor, as you know, there are members of the General Assembly that are calling for full funding of the foundation formula. Do you think that's possible to do in this current budget?
Well, I mean, budgets are a series of choices, and balancing them is a very difficult thing to do. And we're a long way from the finish line at the end of this session. We spent a lot of time on this budget to try to make sure that we preserve the programs, we're able to lean forward as best we felt we could. I mean, we've had to, since the budget was passed last year, I've had to trim, over $600 million out of the budget that was passed last year. And unlike other states that cut education in the middle of that, we didn't. I mean, when you look at other states taking hundreds of millions of dollars out of this year's budget, and you look at states like Nevada that have put $700 million cut for education for next year, I think Missouri stands well. As far as this, certainly we'd like to give as much money to K-12 education as we possibly can. I'm a long-time, obviously, supporter. My wife is a teacher, her father was Commissioner of Education, and we'll continue what the dollars we have to move them towards K-12 classrooms. But in this budget year, being basically the only area of government that got a gain, and certainly the only area of education that got a gain, I'm asking local school boards and local administrators to work with us through these difficult times and to make sure that we use those additional dollars in a very wise way.
What are your other budget recommendations for K-12 education, for example, the Career Ladder program?
Yeah, I just think that it's important to support the teachers that do more. The Career Ladder program is a program that is designed to reward teachers for working beyond the classroom hours and helping students. And I just thought that this was not the time to back up from that. So we're fully funding the Career Ladder and continuation of that program. There was significant discussion last year, obviously, as everybody knows, to completely end that program. I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think investing in teachers through our local school districts is the right thing to do.
And what about the A-plus program?
It's been a burr for a lot of years to me that the A-plus program is not available statewide. I think it should be set up by student, and every student that meets the criteria should be eligible. I think there's been a little bit, and so what we've called for is to say that A-plus should be eligible to all students that meet the criteria across there. And I'm hopeful that we can get the legislature to do that so that students that want to go on for those two-year school degrees, tuition-free, and have met those requirements are going to be able to do that.
Governor, you mentioned earlier the difficulty of making choices with the current state revenue situation that we're facing in the state of Missouri. Just how bad is it?
Well, I mean, it's a challenge, but once again, we're Missourians. We come together in difficult times, and we work together to work our way through. We're certainly not as bad off as other states because we made some budget decisions early. We trimmed the fat. I've had to lean up government by 1,800 positions statewide. Took another over 500 in this budget over what we had done last year. We've had to trim back a number of programs. We've had to cut back on capital expenditures, but we haven't forgotten the basics of what we need to get accomplished. We were able this year not only to find additional money for K-12, but also continue our tuition freeze with higher education so that folks going on to public 2-year and 4-year institutions will not see any tuition increase. But the bottom line is, I mean, the numbers are pretty stark. I mean, you're down about $800 million in revenue. And one of the great things about Missouri, but a challenging from the chair I sit in, is that we have to balance the budget. I mean, we don't And we will. So I'm asking everybody to work with us. If they have ways we can find efficiencies, if they have ways we can deliver the product better, we want to do that. But the bottom line is there were significant cuts all across government everywhere except for K-12 education.
One possible source of new funding, of course, is the federal government's Race to the Top program, and our Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has submitted an application to get a share of that federal money. Why is Race to the Top important for Missouri?
Well, first of all, Missouri is ready to compete, and I think when you look at the Race to the Top, one of the things where Missouri shines out is in our ability to get data and to get predictable information showing what's happening in our schools. I think Missouri is already competing very well in that area with our testing programs, with our thing. When you looked at the other states' applications, clearly that's one area where Missouri shines. So having those base information, some of those annoying tests that are out there, annoying reports, well, that's put us in a situation here where when we talk about moving forward, we're better positioned than some other states. But I think the Race to the Top has got a chance to be one of those moments that are transformative for education across the country. I think there's going to be a number of rounds of the grants, and I think we'll watch very carefully whether we're granted some assistance in the first round or the second or third or fourth. The bottom line is we got to keep, if those first round grants come out and we don't get one of those, it'll be a time to reassess what dollars were out there and try to hone in on what we can do to get those additional dollars.
Governor, there's been some talk in the legislature this year about the idea of open enrollment, the idea that students could move about easily among school districts, easier than they can now anyway. What are your thoughts on open enrollment?
Certainly. I mean, it's really challenging to run local school districts, especially if you don't know how many students are going to be there. And in the middle of the year, they can leave and drive down the road. I mean, I think that and this is like a number of things that are going on right now. Is a lot of folks think they can in essence fix public education. I don't think there's I think we're doing very well in education. I think we've got a great group of teachers. I think we've got great school boards out there that are working hard. But there's these folks that want these soundbite fixes to solve what the real challenge is. As I said in my State of the State, I mean, criticizing education is cheap. Supporting education is expensive but worthwhile. So we'll look at these things very carefully, and certainly if a particular student needs to move in this situation, there's already measures that allow them to move from one area to another. But as far as, especially in the rural, less populated areas of the state, having folks flying around all sorts of districts makes a lot of other complex problems that we need to take care of before we move forward if we were to consider something like that.
Governor, we know you're facing some very difficult choices this year in the state's budget, and we thank you for spending some time with us and answering our questions.
Well, I don't complain, and I want to say a specific thank you to all those folks that are out there on these school boards. I mean, my mom was on a school board, my wife's father was commissioner of the state. They don't get paid. Their local citizens walk up to them on the street and give them brilliant solutions or criticize what they do. The bottom line is that in these challenging times, we want to use these additional dollars for K-12 well. We want to see if we can stay together. There's a tax on public education right now. Clearly, there's special interest funding. There's political issues coming at public education. It's important that we stay united together to improve public education in this state, and I'm confident that we're going to do just that.
All right. Governor, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again, Governor, thank you very much for being with us on our program. We appreciate it. Before we go, I'd like to remind you about the Paul Morris Community Service Award. This award has been established by MSBA's Educational Foundation, Future Builders, and it's designed to recognize individuals who provide leadership in their communities through school board service and other community service activities. Details on applying for that award are on the MSBA website, and that award was named in honor of former MSBA President Paul Morris of Mount Vernon, who died last year. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from the Jefferson City offices of the Missouri School Boards Association.